Emotional intelligence in handling difficult conversations. Difficult conversations are not simple. Most people avoid difficult conversations like the plague. No one really wants to uh, approach difficult people, difficult conversations with a smiling face because they know what's lying ahead. Difficult conversations can become hostile, unpleasant, and surface the rawness of negative emotions. The person handling those difficult conversations is often seen as a bad or unpopular person, and in a workplace, no one wants to step up. To handle those difficult conversations with a happy face because they might ultimately get fired, they might look like the bad one, they might get a negative reputation. At the same time, the emotionally intelligent person rises to the occasion to face those difficult conversations head on, while others flee from difficult conversations. Emotionally intelligent people approach them head on, and they are likely to find themselves alone when it comes to facing those ugly, unpleasant, difficult talks that are conveniently avoided by many. They see those as opportunities. That's what emotional intelligence does. Emotionally intelligent people see difficult conversations, difficult people as opportunities to grow, as opportunities to clear up the misconceptions and the misunderstandings that can take care of so much of negativity that's floating around and propels them to move forward. When a difficult conversation is addressed and not delayed, it sheds light on how to receive a problem. And sometimes others that you're working with or in your family circle that you're living with, they may not have that reference point. They may always feel that difficult conversation should be avoided, denied, or delayed, and then the problem keeps festering. It comes in different manifestations. It tweaks the lens in how a problem is viewed. It also helps to determine if the problem should be addressed at all. Sometimes some problems are best left untouched and ignored, and nothing really comes out of it. Without a conversation, miscommunication, manipulation, and misunderstanding begin to breed. And all those miscommunications, misunderstandings, and the miscommunications usually start underneath the surface, and it's hard to detect until more problems come up and the damage is done. Facing difficult conversations early on rather than later on sprays a layer of protection against misunderstanding and lies taking root. So emotionally intelligent people face and tackle the difficult conversations early on. People who lack emotional intelligence wait for later on or wait for someone else to volunteer. When difficult conversations are addressed, it plants the seeds for some kind of change. Change. It creates a glimmer of hope that the unhealthy dynamic might actually begin to disappear, not through a magic wand, but through some kind of intervention, some kind of change that's being implemented. Postponing a difficult conversation, on the other hand, removes this kind of hope. And in the longer run, it makes people feel hopeless. So, emotional intelligence leads to people addressing those conversations early on, and for a short time it might seem difficult and hopeless, but in the longer run it creates hope. Whereas when it's postponed, that hopelessness keeps lingering and keeps festering. Facing difficult conversations pushes a family, an organization, a business, an association to embrace constructive change. If the friction is ignored, the situation continues to be static. The problem will take deeper and deeper root until sometimes there's much damage and it's too late. Which direction this change takes place depends on the person leading that difficult conversation. So when there's friction, when there's an ongoing unhealthy dynamic, and everyone has been conveniently turning the other way, and an emotionally intelligent person steps up to face and tackle the difficult conversation, let it be someone who is able to rise beyond that difficult conversation and see the bigger picture, because that person has a lot of platform, a lot of responsibility, and a lot of weight in steering the subsequent relationships, in steering or setting the tone for the subsequent journey of that company or that association. The person handling that difficult conversation has a big impact on the kind of outcome, the final destination of that problem, or in how it's resolved or how it's tackled. It all begins by addressing and confronting the difficult conversations, not by avoiding them. Facing a difficult problem or a conversation rather than running away from it often leads the way to a deeper understanding of why the problem is happening. In some cases, recurring for the 500th time, for the 40th year. In some cases, it might be the same problem within a family or the same dynamic within a company that's been recurring for 10, 20, 30 years. And the company still is flourishing, that they have not gone out of business. The family is still surviving and they're standing. And at the outside, it looks like they're doing quite well. But inside the problem, it's like having some kind of insect gnawing away, and nobody can really see what's happening. Facing a problem rather than running away from it leads to a deeper understanding of why it's happening. That's how emotionally, from an emotional standpoint, it helps to take care of it from the root. And deeper understanding of that situation, of that dynamic, opens creative approaches to handling the same old problems. Here's what we have to remember. Most people are more comfortable with old problems than they are with new solutions. Emotional intelligence pushes us to look at the same old problems through a brand new lens. And oftentimes, the standoff point is having a difficult conversation in repairing or restoring damaged trust. How many relationships within a family, within a business, within a community that have been destroyed, severed, without repair, and shattered to bits could have been easily avoided of that disastrous outcome if difficult conversations were faced on time? How many murders could have been avoided if that difficult conversation, as ugly and unpleasant as it was addressed on time? One may never know, because those conversations were never held on time, or they were handled in a disastrous way. To effectively repair a damaged relationship, the problem has to be faced. That conversation that others are avoiding has to be addressed. That sets the tone for healing, that sets the tone for restitution, that sets the tone for a different outcome and something good coming out of it. Often that standoff point is having a difficult conversation. And emotionally intelligent people know that avoiding difficult conversations is not always the best option. They know that sometimes the best path forward is to face those difficult conversations head on. They have the courage, like do others around them. The emotionally intelligent person taps into that courage, and they don't care about the outcome, whether they are going to be popular, whether they are going to be well liked, is it going to affect their promotion. They're doing it for the right reasons, and that sets them apart. The deeper the problem, the deeper the need for teamwork. As the problem deepens, the need for teamwork elevates. Oftentimes, what happens as the problem gets deeper and deeper, uglier and uglier, kind of like the rotten onion syndrome, as you peel off the lid, one by one, the people on the team, if it's not an emotionally intelligent team, they will begin to desert the ship. And so it's the emotionally intelligent person that is stuck with the problem, and they have to have the difficult conversations. As the problem escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. Good times attract good employees, bad times test them. As the problem thickens, people begin to disappear. Employees start sending out resumes, they start making calls, or if they feel like they're not going to get the benefits that they anticipated, they will just quit. And so the stress level also deepens, and it puts added pressure on the emotionally intelligent person because everyone seems to be avoiding the difficult conversation. It is when the need for teamwork is at its peak that the emotionally intelligent person finds themselves alone, oftentimes. They find themselves alone, and all this long list of contacts they had seems to have conveniently disappeared. They often have to face the difficult questions posed by the media alone. They may find that there are plenty of people waiting to find fault with them. Employees or people that they thought were for them may now be against them. Their family or sometimes friends might screen phone calls because they don't want to get involved, and their friends might join hands with competitors because of financial benefits. What typically happens is that the problem has become uglier and uglier, and like the rotten onion, the stench becomes unbearable. Who would want to take over that mess? Who would want to cook a rotten onion? Emotionally intelligent people, when they see early signs of problems, they either eliminate it right away or they address it head on. It could be by firing people, it could be by having conversations as a warning sign, it could be by documenting it to prevent some kind of serious lawsuit. It could be hiring new people. They take early steps because they know that it takes 100 times more effort once the problem has thickened and they have to address it, and oftentimes alone. An emotionally intelligent person knows that as the difficult conversations get deeper and deeper and the problem gets deeper and deeper, they are being watched every step of the way in how they handle the problem during such difficult times. As the problem deepens, those watching in the sidelines are silently asking themselves, let's see how he or she handles this one. They are watching silently. Why do emotions matter during difficult conversations? Handling difficult people. Why? Emotions can make us or break us. How the emotionally intelligent person regulates their emotions preceding, during, and after that difficult conversation, how they take it after, how they take the aftershocks of a painful encounter, whether they bounce back with resilience or they get bogged down by the conversations and sometimes the trauma they might experience after the event has passed, are just a handful of ways in how emotional intelligence gets tested during difficult conversations. This is not only for work, it also applies in our family lives, in our community lives, in our social circles. How do we handle a difficult conversation where we hear a piece of news from someone that we desperately don't want to believe? Those are the times that we become emotionally vulnerable, we become emotionally raw, emotionally volatile, and our emotions get tested during those difficult conversations. Difficult conversations and situations can trigger strong emotions and stress. These can interfere with one's communication, judgment, and relationships. Therefore, it is essential to manage emotions and stress and help the other person also to do the same when needed. Difficult conversations can dissolve into madness if emotions take over. And sometimes you see arguments escalating, one upping the other. It can happen aboard a flight, it can happen at work, it can happen in a grocery store, it can happen within your family, it can happen at the family Thanksgiving dinner. All it takes is one little look, or not saying something, or one word choice, or mentioning someone's name, or mentioning an incident from 50 years ago, and it keeps escalating. Such escalation can happen during email wars, the email wars that go back and forth. Someone lacking self regulation, someone who's unable to regulate their own emotions, someone lacking self awareness, they are not attuned to their own emotions, someone lacking empathy, who cannot absolutely see the situation from another person's shoes, someone lacking social skills, they absolutely don't care what they say or how they erupt in that situation, someone lacking that inner motivation to see the best outcome, they can go off topic. It can be that whole situation can dissolve into madness. There could be a lot of lashing out. Some people get physically violent. There could be gun violence, verbal rage, road rage, and they get into a vehicle and just drive like maniacs, and that could create an accident. So, how difficult conversations are handled is critical for those outcomes. And that's why many people avoid them like the plague. That's why they're avoided. And at the same time, avoiding those conversations is not going to help either. Having the upper hand of authority might help to get away with some of those difficult conversations not ever getting addressed. Let's say if someone is in a job description or in an income bracket, or their family member is running the business, so they might be able to avoid those difficult conversations. However, it leaves a residue, a negative residue. Emotionally intelligent people have better control of their emotions during difficult conversations. They pay attention to the long term impact of their emotions as well as the emotions of others. And they face the reality. They see the reality for as it is, not to see reality as how they would like it to be. And sometimes that can be extremely painful. It can be extremely painful to face and accept the reality for as it is in family matters, in work matters, in financial matters, because our human natures, we want to have hope that it is not that bad, that it is not this ugly. Emotionally intelligent people face the ugliness of the reality. This gives them the courage. This equips them with the courage to face those ugly conversations, not as how they would like it to be, but how it actually is. Emotional intelligence in handling difficult conversations.